Continuing with educators.com, we are now going to be looking at the patterns of organization for the next couple lessons. That's what POO stands for. That's POO, pattern of organization. And for this lesson, we are going over listing and definition. So the overview for this lesson is going to be very simple. We have listing and classification, what it does, examples, and then finally the keywords that let you know, hey, this essay is organized according to listing and classification. Then we're going to go with definition and illustration. Tell you what it does, examples, and then keywords one more time. So, listing and classification. Well, what does listing and classification do? It groups items together. If you remember from the writing lesson, we went into depth about this. So I have baseball, soccer, football, and a coconut. One of these does not belong, and so we're not talking about coconuts in the essay. But we'll talk about baseball, football, and soccer because they're all types of sports. So we can also separate ideas and present them one at a time. So in the example I've just talked about, baseball, soccer, and football, I'm going to talk about the rules of each sport one at a time and not all jumbled up together like, well, what are the rules for baseball? And then all of a sudden you're hearing about, a 50-yard line, and then you're hearing about, somebody yelling goal when the score is 1-0. Listing and classification is the simplest and easiest to use. And what's great about it is that anything can be put into a set, and then so it's just a really, really easy way to organize an essay. Sample essay number 1. There are several different types of marine mammals. First, there are whales. Blue whale, for instance. Another fun marine mammal is a dolphin. Skimming along. Lastly, there are otters. So, just by looking at those keywords, I have found the first major supporting detail, the second major supporting detail, and the third major supporting detail. First, another, and lastly. All organized in a simple listing format. Sample essay number 2. Authors use different types of narration. They can be divided into 2 large categories, first person and third person. What are we going to talk about in this essay? Well, we're going to talk about both. One type of narration, first person, makes the reader feel like he's reading a diary. Continuing on. The other type of narration is third person. This type of narration uses third person pronouns like he or she or they. So, again, read through this essay, and how quickly did I find the thesis? Well, it's not really stated in one sentence, but I know that we're going to be talking about both first person and third person narration. Not put in one sentence, but I can definitely see where it is. Found my keyword, one type here, and found the other keyword, the other type here. And even if I wasn't looking for keywords, I already know what this essay is going to be about. It's going to be about first-person narration and third-person narration. So I can just look and find those two somewhere in the essay. Notice, I'm not reading every final word. I'm just skimming first. Later, I'm going to go through this word by word, line by line, but we skim first. So, those are the 2 examples we went over. Now, what are some common listing and classification keywords? Turns out, any number, 1, 2, 3, 7, first, second, third, last, are going to be keywords for listing. But that can sound kind of boring, so sometimes authors will use another, other, in addition, also. And then we have furthermore and moreover. That, very, very simple listing and classification keywords. Now to the other type, which is definition and illustration. Well, first off, a definition is something like saying, a mammal is a creature that lives in the ocean and breathes oxygen. An illustration of a marine mammal is a dolphin. So that's a difference between a definition and an illustration. Whole point of definition and illustration is to help readers understand new things and new concepts. Often, the writer isn't going to assume that you know everything that they know, which is why they're writing, and so they'll give you some definitions to kind of help you along. In order to understand definitions better, we have to have concrete illustrations of abstract concepts. Now, the difference between concrete and abstract is when I say that something is concrete, like this electric pen, means something that I can see and that I can touch and that I can, I don't know, I suppose I could lick it if I wanted to, but I don't want to. And that's a concrete illustration of an abstract concept, which is what is a definition of an electric pen. Again, definition and illustration is very simple and easy to use, and it is extremely important to find. Remember, if you're reading something and the author gives you a definition right at the beginning, highlight it, underline it, put stars around it, paraphrase it, whatever it takes. They put that definition there to help you understand something. And later they're going to be using those words and that terminology. And if you're not sure what that word means, if you're kind of hazy, then the rest of the essay would be very hard for you. So, let's go over some definition and illustration essays. Number one. One of the common genres of television is the detective drama. A detective drama is a television show that centers on a group of criminal investigators, detectives, or law enforcement individuals. For example, the show CSI centers on a group of murder and criminal detectives in Las Vegas, Nevada. As one would expect, these shows often begin with the discovery of a crime. New detail maybe? The show Bones is a good illustration. At the beginning of each show, two partners investigate the decayed remains in order to solve a crime. So, what do we got here? One of the most common genres of television is a detective drama. And then right here is a definition keyword. That's why I keep highlighting it. And we have here, for example, which is a minor supporting detail, and it's giving us an illustration. And then we have this right here. As one would expect, these shows often begin with the discovery of a crime. It's probably a major supporting detail because I've transitioned away from this example of, detectives in Nevada. And then right here, I got an illustration. So, that is our first sample. Sample number 2. This one's a little bit more hard and technical, so please pay close attention. Musicians make use of something called triads. I'm going to circle that word because I don't know what a triad is, and I need to know. Triads refer to a combination of 3 different notes which are played at the same time. Let's discuss their basics and their qualities. So, I'm going to underline that because it says, let's discuss. That's usually giving me a nice big clue that I got the thesis right there. The basic form of a triad uses 3 notes called a root, third, and fifth. Called. And then I'm going to circle these words here. We got root, third, and fifth. The root refers to a note for which a triad is named. For example, the A minor triad will use the note A as its root. The third refers to the note that is 3 steps above the root. To illustrate, use the alphabet. A, B, C makes C the third. The third is important because it will make the triad minor or major. The final note, the fifth, is 5 notes above the root. Annotating, annotating, annotating. Annotating like crazy. You've noticed I've circled words that are defined. And how do I know that they're defined? Because we're using definition keywords like is called or refers to. So, let's go over what definition and illustration keywords look like. So, is or are. Not always a definition keyword, but if it's right at the beginning and it's using a term you've never heard before, chances are is or are is a great example of a definition keyword. Refers to or is called. The triad refers to 3 different notes. So we could also say known as, named, or defined as. It's probably the biggest written in the sky example of a definition keyword. Now, the illustration keywords, remember, we're going to get concrete examples of abstract definitions. We might say that is, or to clarify, or the very famous examples, or to illustrate. Sometimes you get recognized by. That's examples of definition and illustration keywords. So, your assignment is to once again read the sample essays that are posted online. Highlight those keywords. See how many you can find. If you got a word you've never seen before and you need to know the definition, circle it and annotate. Write in the margins, if you can, what you think a better definition would be, or paraphrase it into something that you understand very clearly. Until then, thanks for using Educator.